Hello, Dolphins fans. The 2025 draft is approaching, and we have some news in store. In the last few hours, we received news about some names that could get a chance on the 2025 team. I'll tell you all about it, but first, make sure you've already hit the like button if you've been a Miami Dolphins fan for over 22 years. There are people here who were at the first game. It's great to see fans of all ages. Now, speaking of the new Miami Dolphins 2025, I want to ask you a question. Which player do you think the Dolphins should go after? Comment with your opinion. One of the most intriguing prospects Miami has found is Alabama quarterback Jaylen Milroe. Now, Milroe is a polarizing player in this draft. He's an elite athlete, one of the most explosive in the entire class, racking up an impressive 20 rushing touchdowns last season. But as a pure passer, there are concerns. His processing speed, accuracy, and overall refinement as a quarterback still need development. Some scouts even believe he would have been better had he stayed in college for another year. But here's where it gets interesting. If the Dolphins drafted him, his immediate value wouldn't necessarily be as a traditional quarterback, but as a dynamic weapon in short yardage situations. Think of the role Taysom Hill plays for the Saints or how the Steelers have used certain packages for mobile quarterbacks in the past. Miami could utilize Milroe in goal line and third and short situations, adding an element of unpredictability to its offense. However, there's a legitimate concern about his hand size, only 8.6 inches, which would be the smallest of any first-round quarterback ever drafted. This could affect his grip on the football in bad weather conditions. While hand size debates can be overblown, it's something NFL teams take seriously when evaluating a quarterback's ability to handle the ball under pressure. But here's the big question. Would you take Milroe on day 2 of the draft? If he's available at pick 98, where Miami is projected to pick in the 3rd round, would you take the gamble? Some fans might see him as a steal there, while others may want the Dolphins to prioritize other needs first. Speaking of other needs, Miami also met with University of Miami wide receiver Xavier Restrepo, and this one is fascinating. Restrepo is a record-setting receiver for the Hurricanes, holding the all-time school records for yardage and receptions. He had a monster season last year, with over 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. However, there's a catch. He's exclusively a slot receiver, which lowers his draft value slightly. If he had this production as an outside receiver, we'd be talking about a potential first-rounder. Still, he's one of the most accomplished wideouts in this class and could be a tempting option for Miami in the middle rounds. But does he fit what the Dolphins need? Miami's receiver room is currently stacked with Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle leading the way, and if they're looking for a long-term replacement for Hill, they might prioritize a bigger-bodied receiver who could play outside rather than another slot guy. That's why some analysts believe that while Restrepo is an elite talent at what he does, he might not be the best fit for Miami's scheme, especially since they already have Malik Washington, a late-round pick from last year. Who can fill that slot role? Would it be a great story to keep Restrepo in Miami? Absolutely. But is it the smartest football move? That's up for debate. Now, let's talk about another interesting name the Dolphins met with, tight end Mason Taylor from LSU. If that last name sounds familiar, it should. He's the son of Dolphins legend Jason Taylor, and while the family connection is cool, this isn't just about sentimentality. Mason Taylor is a legitimate talent, setting records as LSU's all-time leader in receptions and receiving yards for tight ends. He's got the size, he's got the skills, and he's got the potential to be a great fit for Miami's offense. With the Dolphins currently relying on Jonnu Smith as their primary tight end, Taylor could be brought in as his backup in 2025, with the potential to take over the role in 2026 when Smith becomes a free agent. This could be a sneaky good pick for Miami in the 2nd or 3rd round. But the Dolphins' scouting efforts didn't stop there. They also met with another Miami Hurricane, offensive lineman Jaylen Rivers. This is a player with a lot of talent and versatility, something Miami values highly in its offensive linemen. Rivers has played both left tackle and left guard, which means he could be a valuable depth piece who can fill in multiple positions. The big concern with Rivers, though, is his injury history. He's been in and out of the lineup over the last 5 seasons, and that could scare some teams away. If he can stay healthy, he could be a late day 2 or early day 3 steal, but durability will be the biggest question mark. And then there's another Hurricane the Dolphins met with, running back Damien Martinez. This guy is a bruiser, a big, physical back who rushed for over 1,000 yards last season. Miami already has speedsters in Devin Achane and Jaylen Wright, but they could use a more physical runner for short yardage and goal line situations. Martinez could be that guy, giving the Dolphins a powerful third option in their backfield. However, the Dolphins could also look at other physical backs in the draft, like Phil Maffa or Cam Scarborough, so Martinez isn't necessarily a lock. One player Miami didn't meet with but is worth keeping an eye on is offensive lineman Gray Zeller from North Dakota State. He was already projected as a second-round pick, but after a dominant Senior Bowl performance, he might have played himself into the first round. Scouts love his ability to step in and start right away as an interior lineman, and if he somehow falls to Miami at pick 48, he'd be an ideal selection. So there you have it, several intriguing prospects Miami has met with and potentially has an eye on for the draft. Some, like Milroe and Restrepo, would be exciting but may not be perfect fits for Miami's current roster needs. Others, like Taylor and Rivers, could be smart long-term investments. But now, it's your turn, Dolphins fans. What do you think? Would you take Jaylen Milroe in the third round? Do you think Miami should target Xavier Restrepo even if he's only a slot receiver? And what about Mason Taylor? Would you like to see the son of a Dolphins legend wearing aqua and orange? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Another fascinating element of the Dolphins draft strategy is how they might approach their offensive line needs. We already talked about Jalen Rivers as a potential late-round depth piece, but Miami might be eyeing a more immediate contributor. The offensive line has been an area of concern in recent years, and while the team has seen some improvements, there's still work to be done. The question is, do they go for a high-upside developmental player, or do they target a more polished, plug-and-play lineman early in the draft? That's why someone like Gray Zeller is such an interesting prospect. He wasn't among the players Miami met with at the Senior Bowl, but he's been skyrocketing up draft boards. Zeller was already considered a solid second-rounder before the event, but after earning Senior Bowl Practice Player of the Week honors, he might not even be available when the Dolphins pick at 48. If he somehow slides, though, Miami should seriously consider grabbing him. He has the potential to start from day one and solidify the interior of the offensive line, which is something the Dolphins need if they want to keep Tua Tagovailoa upright and maximize this offense's potential. Speaking of offense, there's another position Miami could target in the middle rounds, running back. We already talked about Damien Martinez, but he's not the only power back option the Dolphins might consider. Miami's offense has been built around speed, with guys like Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane creating explosive plays out of the backfield. But what the Dolphins don't have is a true bruiser who can handle short yardage and goal line carries consistently. That's why Martinez makes sense, but there are other names to watch, like Phil Maffa from Clemson or Cam Scarborough from Oregon State. If Miami wants to add a power back to complement their existing stable of runners, this draft has some solid options. Of course, while the offense is getting a lot of attention, the defense can't be overlooked. The Dolphins front office has made it clear they want to build a championship-caliber team, and that means addressing depth on both sides of the ball. While Miami hasn't been linked to many defensive players in their reported Senior Bowl meetings, that doesn't mean they won't target some defensive help in the draft. Cornerback and linebacker could both be areas of interest, especially if they want to build depth behind some of their aging starters. So, Dolphins fans, what do you think? Which of these prospects excites you the most? Do you think Miami should take a chance on Milroe in the later rounds, or is he too risky? Would you love to see Mason Taylor follow in his father's footsteps and suit up for the Dolphins? And what about Xavier Restrepo? Should Miami make the hometown move and keep him in South Florida, or would it be a mistake to take another slot receiver? Let me know in the comments.